What if I told you that those ridiculous ads from decades ago, like the ones that claimed smoking would make you feel better, aren't that different from the ads we see today? Ads that tell you every box of Kellogg's Rice Krispies cereal is packed with nutrients to support your child's immune system. The reality is, for decades, massive food conglomerates like Kraft and Kellogg's have made over $1 trillion by manipulating food science, food scientists, and ultimately, manipulating us. Their goal, much like big tobaccos, to make sure their products become something you don't just want, but something you need. Now you might wonder who benefits from keeping the public confused about what to eat. The answer is obvious, it's the food industry. Ultra-processed foods now make up more than half of the American diet. They're everywhere, hiding in plain sight, with little scrutiny from health experts or government officials. And let me tell you, the food industry is terrified. If Americans skipped just one ultra-processed snack or meal a day, sales could drop by a staggering 7%. Every 5 years, the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee meets to review the latest research and offer nutrition advice to the public. But this process is being actively sabotaged by food conglomerates as we speak. These corporations will do whatever it takes to convince you that their products are good, necessary, and safe, even if they're not. The evidence against ultra-processed foods is growing, and it's grim. Study after study links these foods to heart disease, diabetes, cancer, and even addiction. Yes, addiction. But here's the scary part. These products are being pushed on us relentlessly, and most of us don't even realize the danger. So, what exactly are ultra-processed foods? These are foods that are industrially produced, requiring machinery and ingredients that you wouldn't find in your kitchen. They're designed to be irresistibly delicious, to keep you coming back for more. Think about it. Corn on the cob is unprocessed. Canned or frozen corn is processed. But Doritos, they're ultra-processed. And it's not just junk food. Many breakfast cereals, granola bars, diet foods, frozen dinners, sauces, and even some yogurts are ultra-processed. These foods are implicated in causing serious diseases, and yet they're marketed to us as healthy, convenient, and safe. Take salt, for example. A few years ago, journalist Michael Moss asked major food companies why they weren't cutting back on their use of salt, given its links to heart disease. Kellogg's invited him in and showed him their saltless cornflakes. The reaction was shocking. The spokeswoman blurted out, "Metal! I taste metal!" The chief technical officer laughed and explained that salt is used to mask the bad tastes created during the manufacturing process. This is the dark reality of ultra-processed foods. The reason you find so much salt, sugar, fat, and other problematic ingredients in these products is not to make them taste better for you, but to cover up the unpleasant flavors created during industrial processing. They're not added for your benefit, they're added to hide the flaws of mass production. While we're being bombarded with these addictive flavors, we're also overwhelmed with conflicting nutritional advice. How do we stay healthy? What foods protect us from diseases like cancer or diabetes, and which ones are slowly killing us? The confusion is no accident, it's by design. Let's go back to 2015 when Kraft marketed their singles, products that can't even legally be called cheese, as a health food. They partnered with the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics in a campaign called Kids Eat Right. This is just one example of how food companies use their influence to make unhealthy products seem beneficial. What's even scarier is how similar these tactics are to those used by big tobacco. When research began linking cigarette smoking to lung cancer, the tobacco industry's first move was to cast doubt on the research. They claimed the studies were flawed, the results were questionable. Today, the ultra-processed food industry is doing the same thing. They're stacking panels, writing op-eds, and casting doubt on the entire category of ultra-processed foods. They argue that the term ultra-processed is too broad, that people might avoid healthy foods by mistake. But let's be clear, these companies aren't trying to further the science, they're trying to bury it. They cast doubt on the research, discredit the researchers, and then fund their own studies to create a false narrative. They pay researchers to produce results that support their agenda, and these studies flood the academic space with biased information. A review of industry-funded studies found that almost 60% showed results favorable to the sponsor, while only 3% came to an unfavorable conclusion. This means that the majority of research we rely on could be biased. The Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee, which should be providing us with unbiased, science-based information, is also influenced by these food companies. 9 of the 20 members of the committee have conflicts of interest with food, pharmaceutical, or weight loss companies. The food industry doesn't want any suggestion in dietary guidelines that encourages you to eat less of their products. It's that simple. Now let's take a look at the history of food companies that were owned by tobacco companies. Some of the biggest food brands we know today were once owned by the same companies that sold cigarettes. Philip Morris owned Kraft and General Foods, while R.J. Reynolds owned Nabisco. It's no surprise that these food companies are using the same deceptive playbook that Big Tobacco used. But it gets worse. There's a growing body of evidence showing that these ultra-processed foods are not just unhealthy, they're addictive. Foods produced by tobacco-owned companies were found to be 29% more likely to be hyper-palatable, meaning they're engineered to be irresistibly delicious, much like how cigarettes were designed to be addictive. The executives at these companies knew exactly what they were doing. Michael Moss, during his research, spoke with a former Philip Morris lawyer who admitted that he could smoke 1 cigarette a day without feeling the need to smoke more, but he couldn't go near a bag of Oreo cookies without losing control and eating half the bag in one sitting. While the tobacco industry has mostly exited the food business, the lessons they learned in manipulating consumer behavior have been passed on. Other food companies have picked up where they left off, reformulating their products to keep us hooked. So, what does all this mean for you? It means that every time you reach for a processed snack, you're not just satisfying a craving. You're playing into the hands of an industry that's designed to keep you coming back for more, no matter the cost to your health. As consumers, we need to be aware of the tactics being used against us. We need to demand better. The food industry will continue to push their products, funding biased research, and shaping public perception until we stand up and say, enough is enough. But this isn't just about making healthier choices, it's about holding these companies accountable for the damage they've done and continue to do. The stakes are high. Ultra-processed foods aren't just bad for our health, they're potentially dangerous, and the industry's reluctance to change only makes it worse. We need to push for transparency in food labeling, stricter regulations on food marketing, and unbiased research that truly reflects the impact of these foods on our health. The future of our health depends on it. If we don't start taking these issues seriously now, we won't get another chance to set the record straight for years to come. So be vigilant, make informed choices, and don't let the food industry control your health and well-being. If you found this video insightful, please consider subscribing to the channel. By subscribing, you'll stay informed on critical issues like this, and together, we can make a difference. Thanks for watching.